There's a song that's been described as an anthem for every crisis. It's the 1972 classic by Bill Withers called Lean on Me. If you can know the tune, you can sing along. Now, the chorus of the song goes like this. I'm sure you know these words. It says, "Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on." And the song goes on. Bill Withers grew up in a coal mining town in West Virginia, but when he moved to Los Angeles, he felt lost and lonely. He missed the sense of community and mutual support that he had experienced in his hometown. The song touches a piece of the human experience that each of us have to grapple with from time to time. Namely, that we cannot go it alone and that we need the support of others. And then the flip side to this is that we need to be there for others too. Since we have a shared humanity, we not only have to lean on others, but we have to let others lean on us. And the place that I think we see this most clearly, or at least we should, is in our families. But we also see it in our church and in our community, and we see it on the world stage when nations come together to help each other in times of crisis. On the individual level, though, there is a limit to this. And the reason for this is simple. Each of us has a God-shaped hole in our hearts. And, as great as other people are, they cannot fill that God-shaped hole in your heart. Only God can fill the God-shaped hole that each of us has in our hearts. And maybe you've experienced this in your life. On the outside, everything could be seeming to be going well. You've got good relationships with family and friends. You've got enough money. You're healthy. You've got everything that you thought you needed to be happy, and still, it feels like something's missing. That's the God-shaped hole. Substitutes for God, no matter how good or how holy, these substitutes can never fill that God-shaped hole that we all carry. They might numb the pain for a while, but they cannot make it go away. St. Augustine summed this up when he said, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you. This is the lesson that the disciples learn as Jesus sends them out in their first missionary journey, the account of which we heard in today's gospel. First, Jesus summons them to himself, and then he sends them out two by two. Now, while each of us has a personal calling, mission, and vocation, none of us can thrive for long alone. Because the disciple who is alone is at risk for discouragement, danger, and temptation. Jesus sends them out in pairs so that they can, in a word, lean on each other, so that they can pray for each other, so that they can encourage and support each other, so that they can correct each other's mistakes, and so that together they can discern how to deal with problems. I know that for me, the wisdom and the insights that I have received from others have very often kept me from saying or doing things that I would later come to regret. Proverbs 27:17 says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." In sending them off, Jesus gives the apostles these instructions. He says, "Take nothing for the journey but a walking stick, no food, no sack, no money in your belts." So all they've got is the clothes on their backs, the sandals on their feet, and a walking stick. That's it. This austerity means that they have to learn to rely not on their own resources, but on God's providence, which is always sufficient. Our resources can't fill that hole which is in our hearts, but God can, and He will. The idea being that if these apostles occupy themselves with doing God's work, God will occupy Himself with supplying their needs. And further, their poverty and their simplicity of life meant that they would be free from distractions and focused entirely on their mission. So what does this mean for you, and what does this mean for me today? It means we have to take stock of what we think God's mission for us is in this particular season. It means that we have to understand what our authentic needs are for community and the necessities of life. But most importantly, it means we have to rely on God to sustain us as we strive to do His work. Often it means we have to lean on other people, and often it means we have to let other people lean on us. And always, it means we have to open our hearts to God in prayer. Because prayer is the privileged place where we show God the wounds on our heart and ask Him to heal Him. Prayer is the privileged place where we know and experience God's presence and receive the sustenance that He wants to give us. So let us together end in prayer right now. Maybe you want to close your eyes and bow your head. Lord, You know the wounds of our hearts, and our hearts are restless until they rest in You. We ask You to fill that God-shaped hole that each of us has in our hearts. And we ask You to help us to lean on others when we need to, and to help us to let others lean on us when they need to. And let us see all of the ways that You provide for our needs. Amen.